here, sorry. We need a big room next time. And first, I'd like to thank all the faculty members here to support our students here. And time does go fast. I still remember, the first time I met Su Yang about 5 years ago. Because Su Yang told me there is a Korean student coming who are interested in digital library. So in the student orientation, I was waiting for Su Yang to come to me. He never did. So I approached him and said, I'm Iris here. So he said, okay, nice meeting you. So, but we didn't have a chance to meet. I just want to tell you, your PhD life here will be the best and the sweetest memory for you in your life. So cherish the time you are in this program. And also cherish the faculty members who have worked with you, and the staff who have worked with you, and also the students, most importantly, your fellow classmates. You will be friends forever, hopefully, right? And so that's basically that. Then let me try to quickly talk about Su Yang's impressive record. And I asked him to send me an email with the, where is my thing? About his accomplishment. How many articles he has published? So he has published 9 peer-reviewed articles after he joined the SOIS. And then also he has 7 papers in the proceedings, and 15 posters in the proceeding. He also made a presentation, no proceedings, 7 of them. And other post-presentation, no proceedings, 8 of them. And he also received ACE's Best Post Award in 2010 with Dr. Margaret Kip. And also UWM, Doctoral Dissertation Fellowship. At the same time, he has also taught 6 different, not 6 different, some of them 6, the PSIST students, and with 189 students. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And before I start to introduce Su Yang for the presentation, I just have a quick question. So how many times do you think you need to practice for your dissertation before you think you are ready to present publicly? 2 times enough?
I've heard 1 hour for each minute.
1 hour for each minute, because you have to start from dissertation proposal, right? For the defense, and then then the dissertation defense, then the public presentation, and then with all the conference you have been to, of course, job interview, whatever they are. But I can share my experience there. When I started to prepare for my dissertation, which is a long time ago anyway, but I did have my classmates really help me so they can listen to my presentation. Of course, my family member, at that time my husband, the only one, always be with me when he listened to my presentation. So I was always wondering when I'm ready. So one day, in the middle of my presentation, I found a silence there. He fell asleep. So now I know it's time. So that's something I want to share with you. So try to practice with your family members. The only thing be helpful to it, pets are not included. Otherwise, you never finish anyway, right? Okay, without further delay, Su Yang.
Okay, thank you for coming to my final presentation. I'm really happy to finish my degree and have this chance. Before starting on my presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to Professor Iris. Without her help, I would not be here today on this presentation. Also, I appreciate my committee members, Dr. Hima Upra, also Dr. Simon Moore, also another 2 more committee members, Dr. Percy Bakari and Dr. Diane Kelly. So your comments and your advice will really help me to improve the quality of my work. Also, I'm very grateful to Dr. Usapja. He really helped me from the beginning of my PhD program. Also, Dr. Jinja, he was one of my best teachers in my life. I learned a lot from your class. And also all the faculty members and PhD student colleagues. All are really, thank you. Then let's get started with my dissertation presentation. Before starting my presentation, I would like to say about my ultimate research goal as an LIS researcher. Okay? My ultimate goal is to make digital libraries more usable and accessible. So to achieve my goal, I'm currently doing a different aspect of studies in digital libraries, like user studies, and based on user studies, I'm planning to design some better system design and accessibility and metadata, focusing on data repositories, and finally evaluation studies. So here are the projects that I'm currently doing. User studies in digital libraries. So this is my dissertation topic, and I thought this is the fundamental study to understand and to build better digital library studies. Also accessibility and usability. I'm currently working with Professor Iris Fisher and Professor Rakesh Babu and Professor Usop together to design a digital library systems for blind people, also digital library evaluation. And also I'm doing some metadata study focusing on data repositories and interactive information retrieval studies. Also I'm currently doing some text mining study focusing on social media sites with the Joe summer, and also recently I started a new project that is develop a prediction model for academic library productivity with Yan Yan and Yewan and Joe. So these are my research projects that I'm engaged in. So after this dissertation, I'm thinking of a 5-year research agenda. So basically, I want to continue on user studies in digital libraries because this is the fundamental study to design a better digital library systems and services. And based on user studies, I will do some system design studies and evaluation and metadata for data repositories. And I believe all these areas efforts would be the right direction to make better digital library services. Okay, let me just start with my dissertation study. The dissertation title is User Search Active Application and System Support in Searching Digital Libraries. But my dissertation idea is very simple. I was interested in how users engage in the search process, and then how the system supports a user's engagement, and then how these user engagement and system support would influence the search output. Very simple idea. So this is the story of yourself, okay, as a information seeker. So this won't be very difficult to understand. And this study is explore both user side and system support at the same time at the micro level. And previous study usually focused on only one side, but I tried to include both user side and system side as one study. So I applied quantitative prediction model. And again, this is one of the few user studies in digital libraries. And also, this study tried to evaluate search process focusing on system support. And theoretical background. Basically, my study focused on information seeking process. So previous models in LIS information seeking process laid groundwork for my study. Especially Marchioni's IR process model directly inspired my research. And you can see Marchioni's model like identified user activities, different user activities, and then try to analyze and try to explain the transition between these activities. Also, my studies are inspired by Marshall Bate and Professor Iris Shear's model. This study assumes that user search process can be achieved by two sides of effort. One is user engagement, and the other is system support. So users engage in the search process and by applying different types of search techniques, and the system supports user engagement by providing different types of system features. Also, I'm a fan of Marshall Gate, so I adapted her model one more time. She identified user activities hierarchically from search move, search tactic, search strategies. In this study, I decided to set the unit of analysis at the level of search tactics. Then, what is search tactics? To help you easily understand the concept of search tactic, I prepared this slide. So think about your casual search behavior, search process. You usually create query, right? And then evaluate the search results, and evaluate individual documents, and obtain information. So your search behavior can be divided by these kinds of different activities, and each activity is considered as search tactic in this study. So I assume that user engagement can be represented by sequential patterns of search tactics. And now you understand the concept of search tactics, right? Okay. So 12 search tactics were identified in our 2010 study. And those 12 search tactics include query creation, query modification, search result evaluation, individual document evaluation, and others. So these search tactics were used for the unit of analysis in my study. So again, let's go back to this slide. My study has investigated three parts. One is understand user engagement, and second part is assess system support, and third part is relationships between search process and search output. So three research questions were established. The first one is to investigate the sequential patterns of search tactics. The second research question is system features are provided by the system. And third research question is how this user engagement and system support will influence search output measured by different output measures. So to answer these research questions, user study was conducted. 60 students were recruited from our university, and those 60 include 30 undergraduate and 30 graduate, and 20 humanities, 20 social sciences, 20 sciences and engineering. And multiple data collection methods were used, pre-questionnaires, trend signals, think aloud protocols, and post-questionnaires. For this study, Library of Congress digital collections was selected because this is one of the typical and representative digital libraries in the United States. And three search tasks were designed in this study. Known item search, specific information search, and exploratory search. Known item search is when a user knows a particular information about the item, such as author or title. In this study, the task was find the Coca-Cola television advertisement video clip in 1964. And specific information search was who are the 4 U.S. presidents assassinated during their presidency, and in which year was each of the presidents was assassinated. And then further exploratory search task. In this exploratory search test, I asked the participants to find different aspects of information as possible on the topic of Jackie Robinson's life and his career as a major league baseball player. And for the data analysis, I applied different methods, including both quantitative and qualitative analysis, but because of the time limited time. I will explain this method in the result section. And in this study, actually there are lots of variables, but I picked the major key variables in this study. For the user engagement, I basically measured the frequency of such tactics and time spent on applying each type of such tactic. And for the system support, I identified different types of system support. And for the output, I measured session length, success rate, and aspect recall. Now let's move on to results. So again, because of the limited time, I just want to skip the result, research question 2 results, and then focus on research question 1 and part of research question 3, which are user engagement part. So the first finding is descriptive statistics about the user search tactic selection. For the non-item search task, it was quite simple task. Just find the video clip from the digital library. So it was very simple, and users were able to finish their task using just single query. So they just used 10 search tactics, about 11 search tactics per session. Specific information search task, users use search result evaluation tactic a lot. Also, users, the participants spent almost half of their session time in evaluating search result page. So users repeatedly evaluated search result pages in the case of this specific information search task. And third one, in the exploratory search task, users applied individual document evaluation tactics a lot. And in this case, users spent almost half of their session time in evaluating individual documents. So repeated item evaluation was observed in this exploratory search task. And another task confirms that search tactic selection differs by task type, both frequency and time. And it was the initial finding. And then I was interested in how user search tactic selection change over time within a session. So I applied some transition analysis and then tactic probability change analysis. So I applied this kind of kernel regression, and I want to explain this diagram. So basically, I calculated the search tactic occurrence probability in a session. So 0 indicates the starting point, starting of the session, and 1 indicates the end of the session. And I calculated the probability. The blue dot indicates the probability of such tactic occurrence in the session. And as you can see, the pattern comes out non-linear. So to predict the search tactic change, the previous regular regression was not good method. So I applied this kernel regression. So this is very flexible method to estimate the non-linear pattern. So the red line indicates the result of kernel regression. Using this method, I analyze how user search tactic selection change over time. So in the non-item search task, users mostly start with query creation method, and then in the middle of the session, they either evaluate the search result page or browse through the categories. And of course, ending stage, they evaluate the accessed item and ended the session. Very simple. For the specific information search task, again, users preferred starting with query creation method. And then the rest of the session, they spend most of their time evaluating search result page, because the specific information, which was the name of the president, assassinated president, those informations were foundable from search result pages. So their strategy accordingly spent more time in evaluating the search result page. Also interesting finding is users spend fair amount of time in query reformulation. In this case, the exploratory search task, interesting finding is users prefer browsing method as a starting method, then query creation. And the probability of browsing and query creation plummeted drastically, and then the rest of the time, they spent most of their time in evaluating individual items. So to collect information, different aspects of information about Jackie Robinson, they needed to read lots of items to collect different aspects of information. So this result is very interesting. And then to identify the most common patterns of search tactics, I applied Markov chain. The basic idea of Markov chain is to calculate the probability of search tactic occurrence based on the previous stages. So I came up with this kind of transition matrix, but to help you easily interpret the results, I prepared this diagram. So in the non-item search task, it was very simple. The red path was the most common patterns in the non-item search task. Users usually started their session with query creation, and then they evaluated the search result, and they access to the item, and then they obtained the information. It was quite straightforward. Same method was applied to specific information search task. In this case, again, this red path was more popular. So users studied their session with query creation and evaluated repeatedly on search result page. In this case, users applied query reformulation quite frequently, and then they obtained information. Also, iterative patterns between search result page and individual items were observed in this case. And finally, in the exploratory search task, the same matrix was generated, but it looks very complicated. But interestingly, I was able to divide user search tactic patterns into these two strategy patterns. That means users' behavior is not random. They not random. So I was able to divide user search tactic patterns into iterative browsing strategies and iterative search result evaluation strategies. Then social network analysis and applied, and interesting finding is evaluation activities. Evaluating search result page and evaluating individual items were two of the most important search tactics in digital library searches. That is, the previous information retrieval studies mostly focused on this query creation, right? But evaluation activities also are very important in information seeking process and retrieval. Finally, I was interested in how we can divide search sessions into different groups. So I applied clustering analysis, and this shows the example of one clustering analysis. So as you can see, we can divide user sessions into different groups. Some groups are very query creation oriented, some groups are browsing oriented, some sessions are engaged in iterative search result evaluation. So this implies that different system support should be provided for different groups, okay? Because all users are different. And I just want to skip on research question too, because it takes too long time. I think the dissertation is very long. Please bear with me jumping to our research question 3. So research question 3, I was basically interested in how search process influence the search output. The first analysis was how search tactic selection will influence session length. So I just used the data from the known item search test. The results indicate that the participants applied query creation tactics. They were able to finish their session or task quickly, which not surprising at all, because users just using query creation, they were able to find information very quickly, right? Rather than browsing method. But if you use browsing method, you should go through different levels of browsing. Like the first time you should choose, you should browse the topic, the subject category, and then subcategories, and then item list. So it requires repetitive browsing techniques. But query creation is very simple. So when you need to do some known item search task, please do query creation method, not browsing. And for the specific information search task, I investigated how search tactic selection influenced the success rate. In this case, search result evaluation tactic was effective to get higher success rate. But browsing method was not good. Yeah, browsing, the users who applied browsing more would get lower success rate. That is, to find the specific pieces of information, the search result evaluation was more effective way, because in this task, users were able to find the president names from the search result pages, because usually digital library systems provide very detailed search results with description and meta information. So when you need to do this kind of specific information, the search task, please use search result evaluation method, not browsing. Okay? And then last one, in the exploratory search task, I also did the same analysis. I examined how search tactic selection would influence aspect of recall. But interestingly, the result was the opposite from the previous case. Users applied browsing method more would get higher aspect of recall. That means, when you need to explore different aspects of information, the browsing is more effective way, because usually digital libraries are very well organized, and it is manually organized and has very well structured categories, topic categories. So users were able to find much more diverse information from browsing strategies. So does it make sense? So when you need to do some exploratory search tasks, please use browsing method. Okay, finally, I did some comprehensive analysis, how search process influence search output. So structural equation modeling was used. So I identified the process variables such as search tactic selection, system support, and difficulty in applying search tactics. Also, I identified three output variables like aspect of recall and satisfaction with search results. So I came up with this SEM structural equation model. As you can see, the X indicates the search process variables and Y indicates the search output variables. So basically, this model indicates that how search process will influence search output, and using maximum likelihood method, I estimated these kind of 18 parameters. This shows the result of the structural equation modeling. As you can see, search tactic selection has positive impact on aspect of recall. Why? Because your search tactic selection influence the output. And that means, okay, and then system support also influence the search result measured by recall rate and also satisfaction level. That means these two variables, search tactic selection and system support, that is user engagement and system support, are the two major things we should consider in the information seeking process. Okay, and surely I have more results, but I want to stop here for today's presentation. And let's move on to the discussion, some discussion. In this study, I confirmed that user search tactic selection differs by task type, user search task type. So interesting finding is, in the digital library context, both searching and browsing are important. So in previous IR research, we mostly focused on searching because digital library system is different from other search engines or online databases. People are using browsing method frequently in digital library systems. So when we design digital library systems, we need to consider both searching and browsing method. Second one is user search selection changes in a single session over time, right? User starting method, mostly for creation and browsing. In the exploratory search task, users prefer a browsing method. In the middle stage, their patterns were kind of iteration or evaluation, something. And ending phase, they evaluated until they are satisfied or abandoned. And also, most frequently applied search tactic patterns were identified in this study. An interesting finding is users are most likely to engage in evaluation or browsing or item evaluation. That means in information seeking process study, we should focus on evaluation also, because previous IR research, their major concern was product creation, but we need to extend our concern and our research topic to evaluation also. Also, iterative patterns were observed. So these are the typical iterative patterns. So users like iteratively evaluate the search result page and go to item and evaluate those items and going back to the search result page and go to the item again, just repeated. The browsing was same, the repeated patterns were observed. So it is called hub and spoke model, so we should think about how to remove this kind of unnecessary repetition to make the search process more efficient. Okay. And next finding was some infrequently applied search techniques. This study found that type pages used or searching or monitoring activities were infrequently used. It is partially because principle of risk effort. Users do not want to do complicated activities during the search process. Okay, and finally, this study found efficient or effective search strategies for different search tasks. Again, for the non-item search task, the query creation was the more efficient way to find information. And specific information search task, iterative search result evaluation was a better way to achieve the goal, search goal. And for the exploratory search task, browsing method was better. And these are the major findings from my study. And my current study, ongoing research is, based on these findings, I'm just going to suggest some design implications for different search tactics. Also, in my study, I measured some factors affecting user search tactic selection. So, for example, domain knowledge, self-efficacy, and search skills. For example, participants with higher domain knowledge, more topic familiarity, they were more likely to start with browsing method. So I'm doing this kind of following up studies. And that's it. So, yeah. So yeah, I and thank you for your time to listening to my presentation. And again, any comments or questions will be very appreciated. Okay.
First of all, the presentation is very impressive, and in your presentation, it seems like you apply a lot of research methods and different technology to solve the problem. It's very impressive. For instance, you use the skill and the supervised working and the regression and other things. It's very interesting. Studies, but I have a couple of questions. And one is, in your presentation, the citation seems very important. And you please tell us how do we define citation, sessions, the search session. Because the session is how you define that is very controversial, and different people have different way to define the sessions. But in your case, how do you define the session?
Sure, yeah. Actually, this is the data that I collected is from user studies, and the users were invited to the research lab, the second floor of Swiss lab, and basically 3 such tasks were conducted. And for the non-item search, the session was defined when users completed the search task. When they found this information, then it was one session. Also for the specific information search task, also when they complete this search task, or I just put some time limitation for the second search task, 5 minutes. For the exploratory search task, the same method. If they think they are enough in their search task, that's the end of the task. Or I also put the time limitation to 8 minutes for the third task.
Okay. Okay. And the second question is regarding your environment. So you mentioned that you couldn't see that, probably don't have the time to mention that. You use Library of Congress.
Yes.
The physical, what kind of database you use? You use their OPAC system or use the specific digital library systems?
Digital collections, yeah. The Library of Congress website has both OPAC and the digital collections, Library of Congress digital collections. So I use this type of digital collections, yeah. Sure, yeah.
Susan, can you talk a little bit more about the population that you recruited and how you decided to do that? And where was you talked a little bit more at the end about the domain knowledge and so forth and how that may have influenced things. Was there any attempt to, analyze the population, or did you try to keep the population relatively homogeneous so that that wasn't really a factor?
Oh, yes, right. Actually, I prepared one table about the demographic information. So mostly my participants were students, so they are quite young, 20s or 30s. Also, as you can see, I try to consider their majors when recruiting the participants. Also, I try to recruit as diverse as people as possible. So also in my pre-questionnaire, I also measured users' domain knowledge, and it was also diverse. So I'm currently working on how domain knowledge influences how domain knowledge influences user searching behavior. And yes, also as to search skills, they are all like students, the university students, so their search skills and computer skills were quite good. So that was the basic information about my participants.
Thank you. Thank you for the work. I think it's a real contribution. One of the things that emerged for me as someone who's looking at designing a digital library, is that one of the things we would want them to build into the design is a high degree of annotation on the search results. Is that right? That's what I'm taking from the results of your research, is that we would want a display on the screen listed with the items that would enable us to evaluate if the known item was worth looking at, so that the iterative process would be reduced. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, thank you for your comment. So the digital libraries are unique and so yeah, in terms of design in digital library context, we should consider both searching and browsing. Also, yeah, the one way we can reduce this kind of reputation is to show the search result and the items together. So they don't need.
No, you would go with the whole item there.
Right, yes, just show the search result like left side, and then right side we can show the real original item, the individual items. Also, yeah, that can be another solution. So
Okay.
there's several ways that we can think of to solve these problems.
Okay.
And then,
All right. Thank you.
Maybe I have one question. So have you think about when you're doing the study, how the subjects' pre-knowledge about the search topic affect their search?
yeah.
For example, like that the information-seeking task, looking for the time and who was the president being assassinated.
Yes,
If the students already know the answer, so how does that affect
I
it?
don't know the answer.
No, three.
I know it's hard to know.
That's actually it was the problem. Some some students already knew when the President Lincoln like assassinated, right? And, so, but yeah, but I assume I asked them. I asked the participants that they do not know the answer for the task.
So you mean that you have to ask the user how to find the result?
Had any of your participants actually used the system before? And if so, how did you control for that?
Yeah, mostly like they rarely used one. Mostly they didn't use this system. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Have you considered for future research replicating the study, but actually now focusing on the difference between student age or university age students searching and browsing and evaluation behavior versus more, what's the appropriate term, Renee?
General public.
Older adult population to see the influence of computer literacy on
Yeah.
the digital library.
Very interesting research topic. We can think of a possible collaboration in the future. You're right, but because of the limited research, I had no choice but to use the student participants. But as you said, such skills and age definitely can be one of the factors influencing users' search behavior in digital libraries. Yeah. It will be an interesting research topic in the future.
I just want to add one comment because there's always a discussion between system design and user-ended study. So the problem is when you do the user study, how can you convert user study to actually system design? That's one issue because there's no way the system can do a survey to a user when any user uses a system. So now the trend really is how the system can capture, based on the observation they can observe, the system can capture data in order to predict user behavior. That's, I think, also the original idea for the study as well. So basically, how can you use the existing data the system can use, and then use the data to predict behavior? That's one way to connect user study and system design too. So maybe you want to explain more about that too.
Yeah, one of the unique contributions of this study is I applied prediction models like Markov chain. Also, as you can see, I was able to classify users different groups. Again, so the system should provide different support for different users. Users who prefer browsing method, we should show more detailed browsing categories. Or users who use more evaluation, the search result evaluation, the system needs to provide more detailed search result page. So this is kind of the future goal and is the hot topic in the information retrieval area. So using prediction model, we can predict and we can classify users' characteristics using machine learning techniques. So that is one of my future research agenda. So this study can be provide some initial idea how we can approach to satisfy different users with different behavior.
If you were to do this, how would the users know which system to use? What their preference was toward? Would the system adapt to them, or?
Yeah, so the ideal system should adapt based on the prediction, right? So that is why I applied this Markov chain. So based on users' previous page view patterns or users' behavior, we can predict users' next activity or next users' characteristics. So to do that, we need some data to learn about using machine learning technique. Okay, I think this is my presentation. I really appreciate your time.
So thank you all. I guess the Dr. Smith will stay for the second part.